The Baltimore Colts opened their training camp in mid-July at Western Maryland College, which is in the small rural community of Westminster. Throughout the first morning with the physical examination, there was that same sense of the impersonal treatment, being herded about like cattle, that one remembers from an army induction camp.
Move up.
It was easy to tell the rookies, intimidated, rarely with anything to say.
261.
I was certainly intimidated, especially by the size of some of my fellow players.
Put this down a little bit.
After that,
192.
And then again, like the Army, the equipment never seemed to fit properly. My helmet was to cause unending anguish. I never could get the ears to set properly inside it.
Yeah, it's going to be a little tougher with the bars, too.
But then finally, with the first meeting that day, the team identities began to establish themselves.
Earl Morrow, Michigan State quarterback.
Carl Douglas, Texas A&I quarterback.
Don Mackey, tight end, Syracuse.
Bob Vogel, Ohio State University, offensive tackle.
John Unitas, quarterback, University of Louisville. Pass offense and defense for about.
As Coach McCafferty outlined the daily schedule, I found myself settled somewhat uneasily into a strange world with its new procedures, and as in most professions, even a special language that could raise a laugh, though I had no idea why.
Defense will check the X and safety X.
The next morning it started. Practice in pads, full uniform, which meant that at some point during the day, the contact would begin.
Pull yourself through, behind your ankles, through your legs, that's it.
My own hope that first day was to try to blend in with the others, to achieve a sort of anonymity, hoping, particularly with something as relatively simple as calisthenics, that I wouldn't do anything untoward that would catch a coach's eye.
5 push-ups, everybody hit it. Down, 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 down.
It comes as a surprise that even in a professional training camp, with personnel who have been at the game a long time, it's always back to the basic fundamentals, even how to fall on a football.
With that ball and let it up in the air where somebody else can knock it out of his hand. Oh, no!
You don't get it, do you?
Yes, sir.
Either right here, never here, or never here. Work them here. See that?
It was a welcome time for me, those sessions on fundamentals, since my quarterbacking knowledge was somewhat limited. I'm sorry.
Richard, get the cattle.
Almost everything one does on the practice field, though, is geared and works towards contact, to that moment of confrontation when one breaks the other fellow down through brute force. The gauntlet is one of the contact drills, one of the mildest.
Come on, Plimpton, shake it up.
Get up, George.
They let me off easy that first time, but not so in what came up next, the so-called Oklahoma drills, a fiendish exercise invented by Bud Wilkinson when he coached the Oklahoma Sooners. The Oklahoma drill involves 2 linemen and a running back who takes a handoff and tries to follow his blocking between 2 tackling dummies. It's a bruising exercise, and one that quarterbacks, being delicate specialists, at least in my case, aren't supposed to try. But I couldn't resist it.
Wall him up. All right, Billy, stop him. Billy, take it easy.
My first attempt at the Oklahoma was so tentative, sort of like tiptoeing up to a fence, that I asked to try it again. I should have known better. I ended up with a dislocated thumb, and what's more, it was on my throwing hand.
It broke.
It's broken?
Nope.
No. Yeah, how the hell am I going to throw this thing? And that was the somewhat humiliating finale of that first morning of practice, ending up as the first casualty of the season.
Okay, man, up the hill. Lunch at 12:30.
Then it's back into the training room, in a sense the social center of a football team. By necessity, players spend a lot of time here, being treated, tending to themselves, and for the twice daily procedure of being taped. It's a $100 fine at Baltimore if they catch you on the practice field without taped ankles. Some 30 miles of it are used up in the course of a season.
Okay, man, let's go.
The afternoon session starts with another team meeting. The films were back from that morning's Oklahoma drill. The performance of the participants run back and forth, studied, evaluated, and criticized.
It's a no-leg drive. You're not coming off at the snap.
Somehow my first attempt sneaked onto the reel. That's the last time, Coach.
Hey, Earl, how's it going? Baba.
Hey, Baba. Johnny.
All the way down. Hey, go get Mike that big man. Down up! Down up! Down up! Down!
That afternoon, my bad thumb and the bandaged hand did not exactly enhance my attempts to blend into the background, nor did it do much for my quarterbacking skills.
Blue!
Sorry.
Blue!
I'm sorry.
All right, show him how it's done.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Now and then I was able to get advice from such great players as John Unitas.
Nice.
That was always helpful, but obviously they couldn't afford to spend much time on me.
Blue!
All right, call the formation and the play, and go to the hand. That's called 2 in the.
Fortunately, I had a friend who could concentrate on me, John Gordy, an ex-Detroit Lion, who could give me the individual coaching I needed so desperately. The back is not going to, he's going to come straight from his position.
Back carrying the ball is going to take the ball on the same side he's done of the hole.
Yeah, right. So if it's the 24, it's going to be over there. I've got to turn like this and hand it to him like this, right?
Right.
Okay, 24, dive on 1. Green, 23, set, hut.
Don't be afraid. Kick him in the ass and move him over there.
Everywhere on the field, at different levels of intensity, similar coaching was going on.
What is he going to do to you if you lay on him like that? He's going to be around you, right? Come on, learn.
I was always conscious of the scrutiny, the eyes watching, the coaches. There wasn't a move made that wasn't observed and catalogued. And then the rookies watching, constantly evaluating their chances, checking the veterans to see if they could pick up some trick, some move that would be useful. And then the veterans, rather more contemplative perhaps, but still acutely aware of the activity out on the field. Always an eye out for the competition, rookies coming up, pressing them for their jobs. Don, do you get much help from the veterans being a rookie?
Well, I'm getting more and more. I'm not so much afraid to ask for it now. It's kind of a bad feeling when you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, so you have to ask.
Yeah.
You find that they're jealous of their positions, or do they really give you all they can?
I think they're kind of secure and they don't mind helping me.
Don Nottingham was the last rookie of the NFL draft, picked 441st, but actually a player who would eventually make the team.
Yeah, so maybe I can pick this game up after all.
There were always veterans who made a point of trying to help the rookies as much as they could. Bill Curry, the first-string center.
It's the hardest thing to break. The secret is in the hands. See, he's trying to beat you one way or the other. You actually regain your own balance by punching him. It's perfectly legal. You're allowed that. It's here, whichever side he's trying to beat you. You get your balance back here. Back over here, and you keep your nose about the height of his numbers.
And then finally that afternoon, the last drills of the day, what are called the gassers, running the width of the field back and forth. The first-string quarterback, gimpy from an Achilles heel operation, followed by the last-string quarterback, just plain tuck it out. The great paradox of football is that the violence, the brawn, is coupled with so much brain work, and that really far more of the professional football player's time is taken up with study and classroom work.
This is our interception ball. If they throw that old cut on us, they're throwing it to the strength of our combination defense. We'll just let the linebacker go.
Of course, that arcane language, all those circles and crosses and arrows, ultimately have to be translated into action down on the field.
He makes it easy for himself.
I had 10 or 12 plays to work from, of which a final choice of 4 would be made to throw against Detroit. The most complex of them was a bootleg play, which to be able to repeat in the huddle was like memorizing a difficult poem.
Flank right, split, fake, 39, flow, bootleg right, off end, come back, 18. Ready? Look right, check, on 1. Ready? Black, 23. Set.
It's a peaceful enough pursuit, working out plays and theory and running patterns on the practice field.
You're kidding.
But finally one has to commit them to action, to the physical violence that essentially is what football is all about. The evidence was always there of the toll that playing the game took, and how much effort and discipline halfback Tom Matty, having lost a year through injury, must go through to get back to the field.
Your mental toughness is doing things you don't like to do. That's when you have to do them. You know you have to do them. It's just like pushing this sled around here. I've got to do it or my legs won't get in shape. I don't want to do it. But mentally and physically, I have to. So, you just listen to what these trainers had to say. And you'll come out in the long run a lot better off if you try to do it on your own.
If I end up with one injury, it's going to be a squashed ear, John.
Well, you'll be lucky. Looking back over 11 years, George, I twisted my Achilles, 3 ligaments and 1 cartilage, full groin, which you play with anyway, full muscles, 2 hip pointers, 2 broken ribs, and 2 ribs where the cartilage was torn off the bone, an elbow operation, the neck brace, the 6 concussions, 10 stitches here, 5 here, and 10 here, 4 teeth out, and that's about it.
You just keep it.
There is so much pain, so much time spent in repair, and indeed perhaps it was because of my own ravaged thumb that I really had to question the fundamental need for it all. There is one day during training camp when that dull regimen is broken. Big barbecue feast on the outskirts of town. It's followed by what is a ritual in almost all the NFL camps, the rookie show. It's a night of beer, both consumed and thrown.
How's the game going, Goop?
It's a theatrical extravaganza for the coaches and veterans put on by the rookies themselves. The theatrical talent may be limited, but the rookie night is an annual private ritual that does much to create the sense of camaraderie and togetherness that is so important a characteristic of a championship team.
There's Don McCafferty. The easy rider, they call him here.
It was a strong bond between all of us that night, and it was good to be a part of it.
Keep coming, Dunk. Keep coming. Turn it on, Dunk.
Come on, then.
All right, fast.
Come on, George.
Hey! 6 flags.
Day by day, the drills went on, and they put me in as often as they could. Despite my bad thumb, I took my turn in the passing drills. We had a live scrimmage coming up in a day or so when I would put my plays to the test, and I needed all the practice and help I could get.
Blue, 13, set, up. Oh, that's perfect. That's got a job.
That's the way it's got to be.
Your hand off my
And of course, John Gordy kept after me, drilling me over and over. Inevitably, I kept glancing over at John Unitas, as if I could pick up his quarterbacking skills by osmosis. Sidelined by an injury, he kept to himself, but practicing endlessly. In the NFL, 2 or 3 players are known as the main man. Number 19, Unitas, is one of them. An unknown from the sandlots of Pittsburgh who became football's greatest quarterback. His presence on the field simply lifts a team, not only by his physical skills, but through his capacity for authority.
You can't believe him what he's called is going to be any good. But if you get in there and you come right out and say, P36 trap on two, bang, get out of the huddle. Even if the play doesn't work, I mean, the defense might be stacked against it because you called it with such authority. So they're going to go out and make it work.
Well, I've got to do this scrimmage on Saturday. What do you think I should keep really foremost in my mind?
Don't do it.
Well, now we've gotten rid of that.
John, you were wondering, how do you feel when you lose?
I don't really feel hurt that we lost. I get disgusted with myself because I didn't call the game properly, or I had a bad day throwing the football. And this is the only thing that disgusts me. I don't get mad at anybody outside of myself particularly. Because I just felt that if I do my job and I call the game right, if I put the ball where it's supposed to, we're going to win. No one's going to beat us.
Well,
in talking about quarterbacking, perhaps the Colt player I was closer to was halfback Tom Matty. He'd been thrown into quarterbacking with an abruptness quite like my own. In 1965, he was suddenly handed the job after injuries to both Unitas and Quazzo. A complete novice, he caught the fancy of the country as he came within a hair's breadth of taking the Colts to the championship.
I think I had more fun at that position than I've ever had in football because the players rallied behind me. They knew how inadequate I was at playing the quarterback position.
What was it like that first time up, Tom?
Well, we had to prepare against the Los Angeles Rams, who at that time had the fearsome foursome. And a good story I used to tell about it was when I first came up to the line of scrimmage, you know, you're under that center a little bit, and you're bending those knees, getting down in a crouch position and everything. And when I came up and they were bent over in their stance, I still couldn't see their defensive backs. They were that big because they were all about 6'6", 6'8", and about 260, 270, 280. And half of them could run faster than I could, which scares you a little bit.
So you're looking right above the
right
base bars.
Right into these guys' eyes, you know, and they growling and snorting at you a little bit like the cattle do, as we call them.
Did you find that your character changed being a quarterback?
No, I was still the jovial type of little fat halfback, they call me, and there was more levity. There was more of a relaxed feeling around our ball club at that particular time than any time that we've ever played, I think. When you're a quarterback, you're going to have a little nervousness in you. Try to relax, get that ball under control, and after you get hit that first time, it's all over, and you're going to be just one of the guys then.
Yeah.
And I think that the only thing I can say is just go out there, enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
We'll area block the backside.
A good live scrimmage would indicate how much enjoyment I could get out of quarterbacking. And the day of it came all too soon.
And it might even be one of the plays that George Plimpton will run with our team when he's in there on a scrimmage.
I understand you're going to run a few plays today.
Yeah, I'm going to run about 3 of them, I think. Mike Curtis was the middle linebacker I'd be going up against shortly. The Animal, they called him. And it was not easy to forget his Cheshire Cat grin as we went down the hill for my big afternoon. The news of a live scrimmage brings the crowds out. And there was a fresh sense of excitement and anticipation. My time would come at the last 3 plays of the day.
Straight, left, three. Hold up, yeah, hold up.
Okay, George, you ready?
At the end of the practice, my moment came. 3 plays.
Call whatever you want, George.
Okay, we go.
Blank. Watch it, you're going to get run over right there.
Come on, Curry.
Ride 38, sucker on 1.
There you go!
All right.
Watch out for a run. Plimpton can move.
Hold up, right here.
15. Set. Hut.
The ball was knocked out of my hands by my own guard, pulling the block, and we'd gone backwards 10 yards.
Double wing right, split. 68 CI on 1.
Ready?
The pass play. A quick look into the split end.
Come on, George!
I stuck him inside to you, Mike. 23. Set. Hut. Inside, Mike.
the exhilaration of that, only slightly tempered by knowing my last call was the quarterback sneak, and that hands were going to be laid on, and finally I'd be blooded.
Watch out, kid. Get started. Back off, Tom. Blue!
You okay, George?
I'm alive. All right, good workout. No special dinner at 5:30. Up the hill.
It was pretty good-natured, all of that, and easy enough to get through, but it crossed my mind it wasn't going to be at all the same against Detroit. Still, at the time, it seemed a pretty fine ending to an afternoon, despite the daily agony of my helmet.
Our receiver doesn't have it out there.
Having checked me out in the scrimmage, Coach McCafferty selected the 4 plays I'd use against the Detroit Lions.
Right or left? To the left. The 4th play, and we were talking about a possibility of bootleg, but after timing in the 40, there's no way you're going to get around that end. No matter who you fool, they'll catch up with you. So we'll settle on a quarterback draw. Both the center and left guard will step back 1 step, and center blocks left, left guard will pull and trap Karras. We saved the 4th one to last, because for the reason I told you before. If you run in the first play, you might not be around for the other 3.
It's good to hear, Coach.
Good luck. I'm going to need it.
With the Detroit game just 2 days away, it wasn't easy to stick to one's room with that on one's mind, and most of the Colts would collect at a nearby pizza palace. But of course, the talk never strayed very far from football.
What about psyching oneself up for a game? Does everybody have more or less the same rituals, or are they completely different? What do you do, Pooh?
I drink a few beers before I go to bed, and I just relax and try to really stay relaxed and try not to think about the game as much so I don't get real nervous and don't get hurt.
Not like Alex Karras goes hitting lockers before the game or something. Oh, yeah. You know, he usually vomits before a game.
You know, from the standpoint of weakness, vomiting wouldn't have any effect on you during the game because, you know, it takes 4 hours for food to get into your system anyhow to provide energy. So anything that's on your stomach before the game is just extraneous. You really don't need that weight. So I guess technically that could be helpful. I did it once, but I didn't enjoy it, so I managed to control it.
Well, right now, you know, I'm thinking about the game. I know it's going to be extremely hot out there, and I know I got to this tackle I have to face. I have to go all out, you know, to get by. About mid-season last year, I could line up in front of a guy and look across the line at him and hate him. I mean, and, you know, like physically try to really, you know, take his head off and not feel anything. Whereas before that, you know, I couldn't do that, and it reflected in my play.
Hey, Bubba.
Hey, Earl, how's it going?
Security guard, go to gate 21. Security guard, gate 21.
On color. Ready?
John Mahoney reports to the press. John Mahoney to the press.
Right now, I'm trying to hold back and save the energy since it's such a hot day. I'm trying to hold back any nervous energy I might have because I'll need it on the field. I'm always afraid that I'll miss an assignment or something, that I'll lose a game or something like that, and I don't want to ever do that.
It's humiliation, isn't it, which is the big thing that one wants to avoid.
Well, it's letting your teammates down. You know, they're expecting you to break your ass out there, and so you got to do it for them. And for yourself, of course. But just don't get nervous, George. 4 plays, they can't get to you. Don't worry about it. If they do, just fall on the ground. Be all right.
That's great. Baltimore bench matched my own. Ernest Hemingway once said that it was a mistake to get to know athletes too well, because eventually one was forced to suffer defeat with them, and it was a considerable strain on one's sense of well-being. I began to understand that. So the Lions had their day. The Colts would have theirs soon enough. In the meantime, one had had the experience, and the time would come when I could think back on it and relish the best parts of that brief personal expedition into football's complex world, which combines so many opposites: humiliation and success, violence and camaraderie, skill and error, confusion and teamwork. And out of it all, there were things to be remembered.